So he also saw Sepkus doing low cadence sprints and thought, why is he doing that? Turns out 2 weeks later, paper comes out, shows exactly why he's doing it. So this is all about, should you be going to the gym or doing low cadence sprints? Obviously, they're not exactly the same, but we'll go through the abstract quickly and then into the actual meat of the paper. So 37 cyclists did 10-week study, full squat, off the bike, 12 people, or all-out pedaling efforts, also 12 people. They measured things like maximum dynamic force, which is like the biggest force you're going to apply throughout the pedal stroke. Very hard to actually test on your own. And then everyone else, and then the other people, 13, just did normal stuff. So really the big thing here is that actually there's no significant differences between the off and on bike controls. So what that means is like pretty similar in both. So in terms of the cycling performance, they both increased the maximal aerobic power, which is like 5-minute power, and it also increased your VT1 as well, which is interesting. But yeah, off the bike, the maximum dynamic force was also increased in both groups, which is good. The on bike also significantly increased the MDF for pedaling. So obviously more specific, which is interesting. The quad size was increased by the off bike group 0.2, while on bike it also went up as well, obviously not as much. Patellar tendon size went up as well. So what you can see here really is that actually the gains from both are somewhat significant, but also the big thing is that there's no difference really between each of them, which is the big thing from this study. So this is the 10-week intervention. The schedule of how they test isn't that important, but what you can see here is 2 sessions per week, 5 sets times 7. So you could already say that the off-bike stuff isn't low enough volume. So yeah, in that sense, I would probably agree. You shouldn't be doing 5 sets. You should be doing like 4x4 or something. So we can already go, it's not great. But the point is, if you're going to do the same intervals, 5 times 7 sets, 70% of maximum dynamic force on both, then, you know, the theory should be, is it as useful doing squats on bikes? Well, if you're doing the same force, then yeah, obviously on the bike should probably be better. The question is, can you actually do the same thing? So anyway, off the bike, they used a Smith machine because it means it's easier for people to squat. They're not going to fail. I don't think it would matter if you wouldn't use a Smith machine, but anyway, yeah, so the key thing really, I think, is more the on the bike one. So what they did is they did seated high-intensity pedal cycles like Sepkus. Each considered 7 maximal pedal cycles from a stationary start and 6%. They're on a TCR, legends. We'll go back to this part in a minute. And then they used a rotor power meter, and basically what they did is they used massive gear, 5311-ish, to produce 70% of MDF through 7 pedal strokes. Then based on close relationship, this last parameter, basically try to figure out what the cadence they need to do to match the target intensity. Cyclists had to modify the gear in the intervention to try and get the cadence not to change. So you're going to change gear when you accelerate. So they might have done 5313 in the first 6 weeks to have a cadence of 43 RPM, and then they might have changed to 5312 for the last 4 weeks when the cadence was over 48 RPM. So anyway, basically you need super low cadence maximum sprint, but you're only doing very short. You can see 7 maximal pedal cycles. Now the reason they've done 7 is because they also have done 7 on the squats as well. So you can see they only had to complete 7 reps of squats, so they want to keep it the same, and so therefore it's like, whether that's optimal or not, unknown. You know, maybe you want to do it longer, whatever. That's not what this study focuses on. The study focuses on, is it actually useful? And the conclusion seems to be yes. In terms of ability to ride a bicycle, 62 VO2 max is not too shabby. That is, yeah, decent. So you can say that they're pretty well trained, which is always good to see. They're not like in the 50s or the 40s, so that's nice. Then there's in the muscle tendon structure. To be honest, I think a lot of this is going to be difficult to really gain a lot from it. I think maybe the only thing that I also think you should go through is just like how you actually calculate your MDF. Now, I think this is where the study gets more difficult because a lot of people aren't really going to have access to this ability. So what you do is a velocity monitoring incremental test in the squat exercise. So you do an initial load of 20 kilos and you keep doing it until the mean propulsive velocity was 0.63 meters a second. I believe you probably can monitor this on a phone or whatever. So yeah, basically you need to figure out when you're lifting something up at 63 meters per second, and then yeah, we can then calculate what you're gonna do, and then let's say we know what it is, and then you need to use 70% of the MDF is what you're then training for a squat. So yeah, the on-bike MDF is probably more useful because you're going to the gym. I actually don't think it's that useful. I think you just want to squat massive as high as you can. I know there's always the speed relationship, but I think you can do that not necessarily on the squat. This was used a friction-loaded cycle ergometer, and this is where I don't quite get how you're going to do this. So you keep everything the same. And then, yeah, but like, who has this bike? I don't know. I think the issue is like, it's going to be really difficult to do this. So you increase the load basically, and then it can measure exactly what the torque is. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's not too useful. I think really all you got to do is just put it in a big gear and just do like 40 RPM and just whack it for 7 pedal strokes, and hopefully that should get it better. 7 pedal strokes does mean it's like going to be a pretty small sprint, like 5-second sprint is. So yeah, I don't necessarily think all of this is 100% necessary. I think if you want to do it perfectly, I think yes, you probably should do this in order to calculate exactly what the MDF is and do as a proportion of that. I mean, I think you could use torque, which probably is another way of monitoring it. Is if you know what your max torque is for like a 7-second sprint or something, then you could just try and replicate it. But ultimately, like, I always think with these things, it's not like, it's more the theory that's important than necessarily replicating the exact study. You know, if it's 70% of the MDF and it's 7 pedal strokes, you know, if you do a little bit less, a little bit more, it's not going to be the end of the world. I think the thing that they've proven here, which is interesting, is the fact that, you know, if you're doing the super low cadence max sprints, it can have a similar effect to the gym. So that, I think, is the main conclusion for myself. And what does it, as like a coach and also obviously an athlete myself, what does it mean for me? Well, it means if you think someone's not very strong, like, you know, their strength is a weakness, but they can't go to the gym, this could be an effective way of doing it. Now, the intervention, I also don't think is very difficult really to do, because it is, okay, it's a long time, 10 weeks, but in the base season, 10 weeks is like not really that bad. It's 2 sessions per week. Now, exactly how you'd fit this into a training schedule would obviously depend, but I don't think it would be super taxing. So, you know, it depends exactly if you think strength is a massive weakness or not, or where you're going to progress in. Could it be done on the same day's intervals, etc., etc. But yeah, like, I mean, I think it's pretty manageable. So yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think it makes sense, especially maybe, you know, once you start stage racing, it can be really difficult to go to the gym. So maybe this is an alternate session. Maybe I'll give it a go, film a little vlog, see how I feel up the days of doing it, and also the day after. Does it have the same kind of DOMS effect as the gym? I'm not so sure. We'll have to find out. But anyway, I hope you did enjoy this video. It's been an interesting study, and it's something that a lot of people have talked about, but no one's really done a study, and now it's out. 9 days ago it was published, so fresh off the press for CCNC video. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.